and grow without us having to massively expand our physical operation. We can keep the gym smaller, going back to what we mentioned before, IT, after your question, keep our physical community smaller, but then have a wider body of students that live online that we can serve without having to bring them into our space. Anything more on that? Any?
So just class sizes or group sizes, how do they generally fluctuate? What's the average numbers?
So we kept the classes at 20 people, we've had the odd class that goes over, and usually when that happens and it becomes a trend, we add more classes so that spreads that out. At the moment, our peak classes are 6 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. 6 a.m. in the morning, 6:15 in the evening. The morning session probably max is about 15 people. The evenings, sometimes 6:15 can get up close to 20, but it usually doesn't go beyond that. And that's only really, maybe on a Monday and a Tuesday. So at the moment, it's a pretty good balance. It's moving pretty well. We're super aware of where they're at. We feel it. It's a small space. It's something that we ask the member base a lot. You feel like you've got enough space? Is it feeling cramped? That kind of thing. And that's probably a little bit behind our decision to try and relocate into a bigger space. We probably don't want classes to be bigger than that in reality if there is only one coach. But we would like to be able to offer maybe 2 classes side by side, so that instead of being, having one, you can have a choice.
Yeah, or potentially a big class with 2 coaches.
Big class with 2 coaches.
Because depending on the kind of class, but I think going back to what Elaine was talking about with community, half the motivation to get into the gym can be that physical interaction with someone else, communication, and just having that third space away from family and away from work where you can just go and chat and hang out and catch up with people, like-minded people. And I think this is a hard thing for a lot of people to have on a regular occasion, because usually that's catching up with friends on the weekend, and maybe they live in different suburbs and that kind of stuff. So, and everyone's so time deficient now. If you've got somewhere close to home and somewhere that you're getting your training out of at the same time, you're getting your fix of interaction. This is very very strong health benefit, And it's much easier to get motivated to come somewhere where you're hanging out with people that you like, you get along with.
I want to open up the floor for questions. I'm aware of the time. People might want to get out of here. Feel free to do so.
There's more coffee at the back, by the way.
More coffee.
Another pot.
I guess I'll just kick off a general Q&A. Throw anything out there, but I'll start with a question from Petros, more specific to training. What are effective rest periods for muscle strength growth or recuperation, as we've been conditioned to believe that there should be 24 to 48 hour rest on the same muscles? Is it feasible to be doing 2 or 3 classes in a row?
Good question. Comes from the fitness recommendations, which is based on generally commercial gym use, which is a bodybuilding type approach whereby you would do your back muscles on one day and you would do your chest muscles on another day and your arm muscles on another day. Again, Arnold Schwarzenegger speaks a lot about it in his 1980s book. Following that approach, you don't want to work your bicep Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. You do need to take rest, right? So there's a thing there. If you're following that style of training, the rest periods are very important. The style of our training is that we tend not to isolate muscle groups so much. We use it as a tool occasionally, but generally you are working in a more kind of whole body, or at least larger combination of muscle group kind of way. So that means that you're not destroying one particular muscle group on a Monday and then coming back in on a Tuesday and destroying it again, or even needing it to rest, because on Monday you might come and do a lift class and on Tuesday it's movement prep. So yeah, I think that the 24 to 48 hour thing is not so it's not so applicable to the way we train here. However, if you come in on a Monday night and you do a lift class and you do a bunch of deadlifting, your hamstrings and your glutes will be sore for the next couple of days. So ideally, you wouldn't go and do the same style of training again the next day. And I guess one of the things that we have to manage in our programming is that people aren't doubling up too much. One of the toughest parts is trying to manage that effectively, because I'm trying to think of what the ideal strength and movement program looks like while T's building the ideal lift program, while we're building the ideal movement prep program and jungle gymnastics program. It might so happen that there is some kind of a deadlift one day and then maybe a jumping activity the next day, and your hamstrings are going to get doubled up. So that does happen, and I suppose, like he put it, we've been conditioned to believe that there should be. If we go back to what our philosophy is, the ideal rest periods are out the window, because you're in a natural environment and you have to do whatever you have to do. If at that moment you have to hunt, or if at that moment you have to fight, you have to deal with that. So we kind of take a little bit of a fuck it approach to that sort of thing, because for the majority of people, they just need to move more, right? But I suppose if your goal set is specifically to build muscle and you are coming in and doing an activity, you know, let's say you're on a custom program with one of us and you're doing some muscle building work, we might recommend that you take a couple of days in between. If you have a little bit of a tender lower back and you come in after a day of lifting, you know, the next day and we're doing some kettlebell swings, it might be the time to ask the coach, hey, my back's feeling a little bit something, do you think I should do the swings or should I do something else? You know, I think again it comes back to the communication side of things, because whenever there's multiple programs going on, there's going to be the occasional time when the match is not perfect. Yeah, does that kind of answer it?
Yeah, I think intuition is really important when it comes to rehabilitation as well. Also for your when you're recuperating, as Petrus has put it. Movement is always going to help promote recovery. You know, it doesn't matter if you come out of a car crash and you've broken your spine, first thing they get you to do is they're moving your legs around. Don't get me wrong, it's not what you want to be doing yourself, but if you have a look at what physios are doing in hospital, it's all about getting blood to the areas that are damaged, and the more you can get blood to the areas that are damaged, the faster your body's going to heal. So if you're doing a big workout, even if you're doing a bodybuilding workout, you've blasted your arms on Monday, taking Tuesday off and doing nothing is not going to help promote recovery as much as doing some active mobility or just training other areas of the body to get blood moving around. So I personally believe you should be doing something every single day, without a doubt, and should be working on something. It doesn't matter if it's working on a little bit of stretching or chasing the kids around the park. You must do something every day if you want to keep your body in good health.
Or even, yeah, and doing the same thing but turning the dial down.
Yeah.
Taking it easy, cruising through. You know, there's a lot of people that do that here. You know, I think that's the intelligent approach, right?
Yeah, and be intuitive. If you've had a big night or a really stressful day, you can still do the same class, but just have a different approach. You know, instead of thinking about putting more weight on the bar, maybe take a little bit more off and focus on form. You know, do the perfect deadlift rather than the heaviest deadlift. You know.
And this is something, is it feasible to do 2 or 3 classes in a row? Generally, yes, because we tend to schedule our classes so that they kind of complement one another. We'll have something full on, like a strength and movement class, followed by a movement prep. Or maybe a lift class, followed by handstands. So you're not working the same things, it's different movements, it's a different intensity. So then it really just comes down to, can you handle a couple of hours of training and are you resting it? Sam? Yeah, that would be the time to come and talk to us. Yeah, because I mean, look, it's in treating you guys as students, it's like, okay, cool, you're not getting what you need for the lower body, as an example. All right, well, why don't you come in and on these 2 nights we want you to do some squatting and some deadlifting, and you've had enough experience to know how to do that now, and we give you a bit of a program and you do it. You know, that's you know, it's one of the hard things for us to manage as we try to offer you guys more. Sometimes it can backfire slightly in that regard. That's right. That's right. And that's the intuition thing as well. It's like, hang on a second, I've only made it to 3 jungle gymnastics classes this week and my upper body's jacked. Hey guys, can I take a bar and do some deadlifting out the back? You know, that's, yeah. Always, we prefer that. And again, we prefer that, we like the questions. If we don't get the questions, we get suspicious, you know? Yeah, and it tells us that you're aware of the process that you're in, you know, which is the thing that makes us most proud when someone sends us an email and asks for an explanation on something, or posts something on the Jungle Brothers Tribe group, or sends me a text message and asking something about this whole thing that we've built, that we've put them into, when it's like, oh, cool, this person is like actively or consciously aware of this. That's really awesome, because that's exactly what we wanted to create. Someone who's now become empowered through that process, rather than just a passenger. Yeah? Petros, my man.
In our new gym, we'll have an area for people to train on their own. Yeah, and we want to promote that.
What's the location? The location in the last slide was actually the colour of the section which
We're looking for 4 times the floor space, and somewhere within 4 to 5 blocks of where we are now. That's ballpark.
Yeah, that's the idea. We've been looking for a while because it is hard to find that ideal place. But yeah, space where we can have a couple of classes running, a dedicated area for you guys to use the gym outside of classes, you know, maybe an extra toilet. You know, showers, yeah, better functioning bathrooms, all of that. Like, just a little bit more freedom for you guys and a little bit more space, and us to offer a bit more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. No, by all means. Cheers, Will.
See, you touched on it earlier, that element of stress and, you know, like stressful lifestyle, and you come into a session and you absolutely destroy yourself, particularly potentially the counterproductive elements of that. What are your views in the context? I know for myself, if you have a very stressful day, sometimes that release is coming in and absolutely blitzing it. Do you consider that to be placing more stress on the body, or beneficial to get that out, that release?
So what you're saying is you had a stressful day at work. You feel like there's a lot of built up stress there, and by what kind of training are you talking about? Like going in and
so like that session which we were saying that I'm sweating, I'm hanging out my arse by the end of it. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it's sort of meditative to get to that stage.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's counterproductive potentially?
No, not at all. No. I think it's the management that you put in place out after that training that's going to make the difference on whether that's beneficial or is detrimental to your health. So if you go straight out of that session and hit the piss and go home and have an argument with the missus and sit up all night staring at the ceiling, hating yourself, then this is going to be detrimental. But if you're warming down and you roll out and you have the right nutrition and a great rest period after that, then it's definitely beneficial. You know? Yeah. Yeah. And how often are you doing that back to back? You know, are you hammer and nail every session, and what are you doing to undo the tension and get rid of the toxins that you're building over that period afterwards? You know. So yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to what you're doing outside of the gym that will dictate whether that's beneficial for the body or detrimental.
Yeah, speaking of which, what are your thoughts on, from a nutrition point of view, of either pre-workout protein or what you take? I mean, I know that it's pretty clear that, like, there's good protein and there's all the crap protein you can buy, but if you get the good stuff, should you be taking an hour beforehand? Are you going to get more out of it? Should you take it afterwards? What do you guys do? What are your thoughts on it?
For me, I don't put too much thought towards it. I just have it around training time. And usually I'm hustling to get my training in, so I'm usually like still digesting lunch while I'm doing my handstands, and then I'm guzzling a protein as I'm like 2 minutes late to start running the class. So it's like, yeah, as long